Okay, my friends, another strange day at Mudfossil University. This is Myron Cook, and I'm going to explain something to you about how cracks formed in mud fossils, depending upon how long they were submerged for. And he doesn't realize what he's looking at here. He calls these concretions just natural things that just happen. No, these are tendon enthesis, and they are from a giant creature. Now, these balls are everywhere, as you'll see. These are in pretty good shape because they were lower and submerged for a much longer time and did not dry out quickly. The drying out quickly causes them to crack. I'll show you that in a second. This right here is where the attachment of the little strap came down to this. I'll show you what tendon balls look like. And the reason I'm showing you this is because next we're going to go to the Sphinx. And I did a video yesterday. It was all done. I'm ready to put it up. And I said, wow, there's some things I really didn't explain well. So I have to go back. So this is an introduction to the video that I did about the Sphinx. And so it's going to sound like I'm starting a whole new video, but it was the video I originally did. This is the introduction to that video, if that makes sense. And this will go on a little longer, and then I'll get into the introduction of the video. All right, what I want you to understand is what Myron was just looking at is tendon enthesis, these balls, and they fracture here, and that's what that scab was on the top of that big ball that was missing. Now, these will normally turn into really solid round balls. However, if they dry out very quickly after being soaked, they will crack. They'll fracture right along these lines. And I can prove that basically by showing you where he gets low and then he goes up higher and they're all cracked up. Let's go look at that. All right, you should come up to Myron's site here and just tell him, say, Myron, talk to Roger. I tried to talk to him. He won't respond because there's nothing he can say. This is a tendon enthesis. That's where that little scab comes off from where the stalk comes in. Now, I told you, down here, they're good. They're not all cracked up. Well, he goes up to the top of the hill here, and here's what he finds. This is what he finds up at the top of the hill because they've dried out. They dry out quickly, they crack all the bits. And the reason I'm even showing you this is because that's what happened to the Sphinx. The Sphinx has cracked on these certain planes. I don't know, I can't really put my finger on why, but that's why the Sphinx has these little cracks, and they look like somebody must have layered it together, but that's not the truth. The truth is that when they dry out quickly, they crack. And the same with the face on the Sphinx. The reason I'm talking about this is because this, my friends, was alive at one time, and these cracks are not from somebody constructing it and then it's just seams. This is a vein and an artery. I'm going to show you all this anatomically, and it's going to be very, very hard for you to dismiss. And it's been dismissed by all the academics because it destroys their agenda, and it shows that they are incompetent to understand what they can see. Now, like I say, I did a complete video and I was just about to post it, and I said, well, I better go back and qualify a few things. This is the side of the Sphinx you never see. This is blood, literally blood running out from this side, just as there is on the other side, and this can be tested. Now, you see these big street cracks? That dried out after the flood fast. Now, did it die in the flood? I don't know. But the reason I was showing this video about the Sphinx is because I think it may have been killed by Hercules with an arrow right through his nose, coming straight down through the top, and it comes out of here, out of his nose. And you'll see the video about it in a second. And I'm not making that claim. I'm just saying, think about it. It's possible. It was written in Apollodorus that Hercules killed all the giants, all of them, with arrows. Was this a giant? It looks like a giant to me. I don't know if it is or not, but damn sure as it looks a giant to me. So, and the other thing is, Apollodorus, who was writing about Hesiod's work, said that the gods took flight to Egypt. They tried to hide out in Egypt. Well, who knows? This could have been a giant that was killed by the gods that took over Egypt. That's all I can take from this. That's my take at this moment. All right, this is Apollodorus, and this is based on Hesiod's writing, which was, he was told to write this stuff about the genealogy of the giants and the gods and all this by the daughters of Zeus. They told Hesiod, you write this stuff, and he did. It was called a theogony, and he wrote a whole bunch of stuff, works and days and so forth. Now, listen to this. Hercules shot him dead with an arrow. He was shooting all of them with arrows. The other giants Zeus smote and destroyed with thunderbolts, and all of them Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. Now, that head was moved and put onto that structure. I'm almost certain, because I can see, I'm pretty sure I can see where it's been fused to the body of a lion, basically. Now, this goes down to when the gods saw him. Typhon was trying to kill the gods, and when the gods saw him, Typhon, rushing at the heavens, they made for Egypt in flight. Being pursued, they changed their forms into animals, and Zeus pelted Typhon and killed him with thunderbolts and cut him down with a sickle and cut his throat. But this is interesting that they're talking about running and hiding in Egypt, which is where the Sphinx is. All right, so this was before there was any men on earth, and the gods had overcome the giants. They killed all the giants. Earth was enraged because those were her children. She had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon, the gigantic dragon in the desert. And then this was all before people were even molded by Prometheus. Prometheus molded men out of water and earth. This is after Zeus smote all the giants. And he gave fire to men, which Zeus didn't like, and he nailed him to a mountain, and an eagle would swoop in on him and devour the loaves of his liver every day, and they grew back by night, and he was hung up there for years, and finally Hercules released him. So Hercules is very prominent. Now, here's the key. Prometheus was Deucalion's father. So Prometheus had a son called Deucalion. We know him as Noah. And Noah reigned in the region of Pythia, and he married Pyrrha, the daughter of Hephaestus and Pandora, and Pandora was the first woman fashioned by the gods. So now we're getting into humanity. Prior to that, Zeus smote all the gods, and Hercules shot them with arrows while they were dying. Now, I don't know, was that Sphinx a god? Or, I mean, was he a giant? I mean, looked giant to me, but it wasn't a god, though. I don't know. At this point, I'm very, very confused. I'm going to need some help to try to understand this. I'm trying to work it out myself, but it's pretty confusing. And, some people probably have a lot more information than I have about this. But that's to be determined. Okay, so I'm going to get right into my original video, and I don't show this because this is a side you never see of the Sphinx, and there is blood coming out of here, just as you will see on the other side. They had veins and artery coming up both sides, and I show the anatomical, and these splits are from a drying out quickly giant body. And that's what happens. They split on these seams, and it's because they dried out too quick, and they open up. That's why they were way up on the top of the mountain. They're all split into little tiny pieces. Below, they're all very nicely formed, and they're not split. Okay, I came across this particular article here, Education, ABC Education, Who Broke the Sphinx's Nose? And this was just out a few months ago, 2023, November. The Nose of the Sphinx. And this is by what's his name? Hamas. I can't. Not Hamas. Oh God. Oh God. I'm telling you. I'm sorry. It's Zahi Hawass. He's the archaeologist, Egyptologist, author, former Minister of State for the Egyptian Antiquities, identifies the probable perpetrator of one of history's greatest acts of vandalism, which is the nose of the Sphinx. And they're trying to explain who vandalized the Sphinx. I'm telling you, this is just hilarious when I watch these things. And you know, these people are the tops of their fields. And they miss literally everything. I'm absolutely certain he has no idea that thing was alive. And nobody will talk to anybody like me that has evidence to support what I'm saying. I have the evidence. They have no evidence. They're just guessing. And the guesses are really across the board wrong, because they cannot get their mind around the fact of these giant creatures. Like I showed you those stone balls from Myron Cook there. Those things are all over the world. They're everywhere. And those were so small in us that you need an electron microscope to see them. And you saw the size of them. So they have no clue, because they can't get their mind to open up large enough to see the full picture. They see this little dot here and they say, oh, I understand all about that dot. Well, wait a minute, that dot is part of a bigger picture, my friend. So let's see the big picture. All right, so now again, this is just like I started a whole new video, and it was going to be a whole new video. It's just that I found more things that I should add to it, and this is the addition to that whole new video, which is coming up right now. All right, this gets into a very, very deep subject, which is going to be for a whole nother video. But in order for me to justify my statements about a flood 3,500 years ago that killed all the giants and dragons and so forth, there was two sets of giants. The first set of giants, I believe, was killed earlier by another catastrophe, which Velikovsky says there was a series of these catastrophes. The one that wiped out all the giants that we knew about, the biblical giants, was 3,500 years ago. That's all. 1500 BC approximately. And every culture on earth had the same story of this worldwide flood, killed literally everything. It's written in the Bible, and it's also in Apollodorus and Hesiod. And it was Prometheus' son, who was Deucalion, who was actually Noah, who was saved from the flood by building a chest, it was called, in Apollodorus and Hesiod. He was told to build a chest, that there was a cataclysm coming, and he could ride it out, but he had to build this chest, and he did, and he was saved. And all of that stuff is in Apollodorus and Hesiod and Ovid. You got to read that stuff. Now, here's the key. There were giants in the earth in those days. It's all written about. Those were the titans inside the earth. And then after that, so that's not these giants, after that, the sons of God were born unto the daughters of men, and they bear children to them, the same being mighty men, which were of old men of renown. Well, the real men of renown were the titans. These men of old, the mighty men, were newer giants. They were a whole new set of giants, which was Hercules and all that stuff. But prior to that, the titans, cyclopses, hundred-handers, all that stuff was inside the earth. And those were the ones, I believe, was the first set of floods, wiped those out, and then there was more. And then also after that, the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare giants again. So we got a series of things to discuss, and this is going to get very, very deep. So, but my contention is here right now that more than likely the Sphinx and the Egyptian gigantic gods were drowned in an earlier flood and then resurrected by the new giants to memorialize them, like Stonehenge and all that stuff, to show, you know, there was giants here, we honor them and so forth. And the Sphinx head was put on a lion's body. That's all I can come up with at this point. Now, let's get into the video the original video I did, and this is again, new stuff that I had to pile on top of here as I started to think. Once you get into a mode of research and investigation, it doesn't stop. You don't get to the point and say, that's it, it's done. No, it never, ever, 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 ever stops. If it stops for you, then you're not looking, you're not thinking. Seek until you find. When you find, you will be disturbed. And then you will marvel. Okay, mes amis. Just when you didn't think things could get any crazier, they just went to another level of craziness. Now, you know I have been talking about Apollodorus for quite some time. He wrote the things that were written by Hesiod, who was basically the first writer to write by the request of the Muses, which were the daughters of Zeus. He had 9 daughters. They were called the Muses. They were personifications of all kind of different feelings, and they were singers and all kind of crazy stuff. I don't know that much about them, but I do know that they approached Hesiod. He was a sheep herder, and he was on Mount Helicon tending his sheep, just doing sheep stuff, and they approached him and said, we want you to write the story of creation up to our father Zeus and all of the genealogy, all of the people and what happened to them, and all of the wars. And I mean, literally, it was just crazy, and nobody would ever possibly believe it. But the proof for me was when I found out about Typhon being attacked or attacking the gods, and the gods turning themselves into animals. And I can see Typhon is there, and his throat is cut. Everything they said about it is exactly identical. So if that was true, and Typhon being 1,100 miles long, and he was supposed to be the biggest thing the Earth ever gave birth to, and Earth herself gave birth to Typhon to avenge the destruction of her children. The gods decided they were going to kill all the giants, and the giants were the Earth's children. So she got really upset and had intercourse, literal intercourse, is that what it says, with Tartarus, bringing forth Typhon, who was a monster. And he attacked the gods, and they all turned themselves into animals. And there is a fish there being killed by Typhon, shown it hundreds of times, literally. And the mainstream is so afraid of this information, and it goes so against academia that nobody will touch it because they're afraid they will be destroyed by academia, and rightfully so. All right, if you want to make a living in archaeology, anthropology, paleontology, any kind of ology, and you're out there trying to make a living, you're screwed if you start talking about stuff Roger's talking about. All right, so I'm the one that's talking about it. Let's talk. And this one here, this is going to whack you. This is just so far off. It's just way out there. It excites me. I'm telling you right now, this stuff just blows my mind. And I know it is to a lot of other people. And you have to speak. Don't be afraid. We are bulletproof, my friends. We are bulletproof. We have more information than any of the top universities in the world. And ours is backed by evidence. It's not speculation. Oh, this must have happened. We all agree. Peer review says this, da-da-da-da. No. Here's the evidence. I'm a material physical scientist. I do every science, and I understand the relationships between them. And there is a relationship between all of them. And now you're going to see the relationship between the ancient Apollodorus texts and the giants that Zeus smote and Hercules shot with arrows. Okay, I'm really hesitant to make any claim about this. I just want you to consider the possibility, because I don't know if the huge giant Egyptian gods would be considered giants. That's the problem I'm having. But here's the deal. Hercules was shooting everybody with arrows. He shot him dead with an arrow. As for the other giants, and I'm talking about giants now, again, I don't know if the Egyptian big tall ones, hundreds of feet tall, were considered giants. I don't know, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. Now, Hercules shot him dead with an arrow. As for the other giants, Aphates was shot by Apollo with an arrow in his left eye, and by Hercules in his right eye. And then it goes on, everybody's killing everybody. Hephaestus is shooting people with red hot metal. Enceladus fled, but Athena threw on him his flight. The island of Sicily, that's how big these things were. She flayed Phalus and used his skin to shield her own body in the fight. Polybius was chased through the sea by Poseidon and came to Kos, and Poseidon, breaking off that piece of the island, which is called Nisrum, threw it on him. These are giants and gods. Hermes, wearing the helmet of Hades, which makes you invisible, slew Hippolytus in a fight, and Artemis slew Gratian. I mean, they're just killing everybody. They're having just gigantic war. And the Fates, fighting with brazier clubs, killed Agrius and Thoas. The other giants, Zeus smote. Now here's the key. The other giants, all of them, Zeus smote them and destroyed with thunderbolts, and all of them, Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. So Zeus wiped out the giants. He just smote them all, and then Hercules shot them with arrows as they're dying. Now, we're talking about giants the size they're under the size of mountains. So we're talking about some serious giants. Would the ones from Egypt, which were, like I say, a couple 100 feet tall or so, would they qualify as giants? Would they have been shot with arrows? That's my point of contention here. Let's take a look at what I was sent today by my friend Pete, Irwell Pete. He sends me stuff on and off. That's the beauty of being me. I have enough people that send me so many things, and occasionally they're very good. And Pete's pretty good. So let's see what he sent, and then let's think about it. That's all. I'm just saying think about it, because I'm not making any claims here whatsoever. I don't have enough evidence. But I'll show you what I can present. All right, this is the head of the Sphinx. I've examined this extremely carefully, and trust me, this thing was alive at one time. Now, what is this thing doing here? What Pete sent me today, he said this thing might have got shot with an arrow, because he's got another shot of it up on the top, would have come right through there. He could be right. Let's take a look. And now, I always thought that the nose was shot off by Napoleon. And then, I looked into it, and they say, no, that's not what did happen. Napoleon did not shoot it off. It says there's no evidence the French invaders launched artillery at the pyramids, or that Napoleon's troops shot the nose off the Sphinx. All right, another piece of popular apocrypha. Evidence suggests that the nose was chiseled off centuries before Napoleon's time. Well, what are they chiseling off? And they couldn't have chiseled it off, because this is more than the nose. All right, that's not chiseled off. That's more than what should be there. And it looks like an arrowhead to me. It could very well be. All right, let's take a close look at this and see if we can make any determination. Like I said, I'll show you the vein and artery in the neck. This wasn't a head that was alive at one time. Somebody put it on this structure, it looks like to me, because the rest of it, I don't believe the Sphinx underneath the lion was not really a lion, I don't think. But it might have been, and then they put bricks on top of it all the way around it. but I don't know. This, though, is very intriguing to me. First of all, you have to look at the shadow pattern. The light is coming this way. All right, so there's shadows. There's a shadow here. There's a shadow here. What does that tell me? That tells me that this is sticking up from his face. That's not the way a nose works. The nose comes down, and it comes down to here, or wherever it came down to. But that thing shouldn't be sticking up out of there. They didn't chisel that down. That's something sticking out of his nose. Now, he sent me this. This I found very interesting, because if that arrow came in, that could be possible. That's just very, very crazy speculation, but it said Hercules shot all the giants with arrows, all of them, killed them all. Is this a giant? I don't know. It's pretty giant to me, but to them, giants to them might have been 2-3 miles tall. I don't know. Now, he's also showing me another thing here. I can't really determine what he's showing, but apparently he claimed, or somebody has put a spot on there. Now, what that's all about, I don't know. But that's another giant Egyptian. This, though, is intriguing. Why is that there? I'd like to know. It looks like somebody put a cap over it so that it didn't get water in there or something. I don't know. What is that doing there? I have no idea. These are the kind of things that I'd love to be able to have somebody tell me. But look at that. It's some kind of a cap over something. I mean, why would they put that there? And then look at the nose. It looks like it could very well be an arrowhead coming through there. Coming right down in there, just like that. All right, here's Hercules. Boom. And he shot them all with arrows. All right, this is a head-on shot, and I always thought that this was the nasal canal, which I still believe it is. And I could see the pupils in the eyes, and some of the, I look for the real deep details. And I could see there's a little bit of blood here and there, and these seams and cracks, those are normal. They just happen. That's not something that's unnatural. We are literally built into layers of some. I don't know why, but that's the way the human body is. As a matter of fact, I have a foot. Well, I won't show it to you, but I have a foot over here, and it's got all these stripes running through it. In the foot, why would I normally think the foot coming straight down instead of having but it has stripes in it, and they all did have something like this, these cracks. Now. So this here is the side of his neck. That's the artery right there, and that's the vein. That's what my claim is. That's the artery. Or, well, I'm not claiming anything for sure, but I'm pretty sure. And that's why this is still running out a little bit. And these are just they get solid. The veins clamp right off. You see this? This is unbelievable. I say that's the artery, and that's the vein. The vein clamps off. Well, guess what? In a normal head, it's exactly identically in the same spot. You see it's right underneath the ear here? This is right underneath the ear, too. There's your artery, which, as I said, and that's running out a little bit. The vein has clamped right off, but it's opened up, as you can see. It's right there. All right, this is the artery, and you can see it running off here. Arteries are weak, and the red blood runs out of the artery. And that's red blood. I can see it right there. That's a little. If that was wet, it would just turn very blood red because it's bloody and red. Now, this up here is some bodily fluids running out of here. Whatever that was, I don't know. But this, I believe that anyway. I believe that's bodily fluids. And that's the artery, and that's the vein. And it's exactly where they show up in the body today. The other place that I showed you was right down near the chin. There was a little discoloration. Let's see if I can find that one again. Right here, you see the discoloration down at the chin. Same thing, black and red or black and yellow. This is, the oxidation states in blood go from black, red, yellow. Basically, those are the three colors you're going to see. All right, let's take a look at this now. These two things, I don't know what they are. Whether they had a necklace or something, I don't know. Or whether they use those to jack it up to put the head up there, I have no idea. Somebody must have mounted this up here. That's the only way I can think. I don't think this is natural. I think this was built as a supporting structure for the head. Although, again, total speculation. But see here, remember I told you down here you get that little blood runoff, and there's the artery and there's the vein. Now, this down here, I don't know, I think this just eroded down to make that abrupt transition there, but I really don't know. I don't know how his head was designed, but if he had a normal neck, the normal neck wouldn't have gone much further than here. So I don't know what's all that's about. Again, total speculation, I don't know. But I'm going to claim now, I can make a claim that this was alive. At one time, this head was a living head. Now, how that nose got to be the way it is, it looks like an arrow, but I can't, that I have no real way to prove one way or the other. But boy, I'll tell you, it sure has the look. And this, I don't know what they did there. I'd like to know whether they put that cap there for some reason, or because it really kind of follows the trajectory. All right, you got your arrowhead coming straight down through here. Zoom. Now, did it come out through the nasal cavity? I don't know. Because I would go with that's the nasal cavity. It could have come right straight through here. I don't know. Is it an arrow? I don't know any of those things. But it's got a possibility here. You can't discount it. You know, the more I look at it, the more it looks like an arrow. And this is the shaft where it attaches to the arrowhead. And you can actually see these little bumps on the side. It almost looks like a flaked off arrowhead. I don't know what kind of arrowheads they had back then. But boy, that certainly has the look now that I'm looking at it. It looks like it's strapped up onto what an arrowhead would be. Just like, you know, I'm sure they had better than, you know, these were gods. I'm sure they knew what they were doing. I had an arrowhead around here somewhere, which, well, anyway, you know what an arrowhead looks like. And it has a little flare coming this way and this way. And then they wrap sinew or string or something around it to secure it. And that sure looks like that could have been something similar to that. Because you see these little fluty looking things there? Can you see that? Boy, I'll tell you, it has the look. I don't know if Pete might be onto something here. Because this is a second entry here. This is the main nasal cavity, and again, I'm telling you, I'm very, very certain this thing was alive, and I don't think it has two. It should only have one, and that looks like a second from the arrow, if it was an arrow. Again, that's just a total speculation.